Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for this conversation. And before we start, please give a very, very warm welcome to Hiroshi Sugimoto. My name is Hans Ulrich Obrist. I'm the artistic director of the Serpentine, and delighted to be here in conversation with Hiroshi for this series, ongoing series of conversation of the Fondation Bayerler and UBS. We recently had a conversation in London, which you can see online with Lynette Yadom-Boakye. It's a series which has been going on for many, many years. Very special thank go, of course, to Sam Keller, to Ulrike Erbslö, Isabella Mora, with whom we are curating this series, to Angelika Bühler, of course, also to the UBS team and the Singapore Art Fair team. And very, very special thanks to Atsuko Koyanagi. A big round of applause. This is part of the ongoing conversation project which I'm doing, and actually it was all inspired when, as a teenager, I came across Vasare's life of the artist, life of the architect, and it's always been at the core of this interview project, of this conversation project, to go beyond the fear of pooling knowledge, to not only bring art and architecture together, but connect many different fields. As C.P. Snow said, we also need to bring science more together with art. We don't need this divide. And of course, Hiroshi needs no introduction, but I think our dream has come true, that he is here with us today for this conversation, because in so many different ways he has brought the fields together as an artist, as an architect, as a writer, as a craftsman, as a collector, as a curator, and as also a practitioner who very often connects to science. So we can say also as a historian, and as a historian of science. We're going to talk today about many different aspects, actually, of this art and architecture dialogue, but we also going to, of course, have a very strong focus on the life work of Hiroshi, the Lavara project, which is a project of a time horizon of 5,000 years. And I think it's very relevant and urgent to talk about that in the context of the art world today. We live in a context where many artists are thinking beyond the idea of event culture, how we can actually, in a way, liberate the world from short-termism, as Roman Kaczarnik says, and think about longer durational format. It's not a coincidence that so many young artists at the moment are interested in gardens. If you think about, Precious Okoyamon are interested in starting farms. And this is something Hiroshi has been doing for such a long time, working on long durational projects. And we're going to, for that reason, put into the center, actually, of the conversation this 5,000-year project. But before that, we thought to not begin with the past, but to begin with the extreme present. And Hiroshi, you brought us actually images and also a short film, and you wanted to show us a project which literally has just happened.
Okay. Well, tonight, I just answer your question, but you keep talking about me, so you don't need me to present Sugimoto. But, I've been an artist, and photography started as a photographer, but quite recently, I became a young coming-up architect. So I'm still young as an architect. And let me show the few projects, most recent project. Can you start? Yes. This is, this is a competition I won at Treasure Island in San Francisco. This is a Bay Bridge connected from San Francisco to Oakland. And there's the small island used to be used as a Navy base before war, but now they are trying to modify it to the entire huge art island. And then they need a symbol tower, like a sculpture. So I presented, this is a computer graphics, 22-meter high, 2 this is mathematical models. It's not a sculpture. I didn't create this shape. But the two lines meeting at the infinity point. So you can look at these two lines, but the very tip is only 5 millimeter. I cannot make it beyond the 5 millimeter as a material. So this is an imaginative link to the infinity point.
And you told us that this is somehow connected to an almost inverted piece to what you did for Obayashi in the house. Yeah, can you talk about that?
I don't have a picture, but I made originally photographed Tokyo University's collection from 19th century. The German model maker, the plaster, first made it. So I'm very interested in science and mathematics. In what's the besides this is not a shape created by artistic mind. Mathematical thinking makes even better sculpture shape. So this is kind of ironical against the sculpture or artist. But finally, so this is actually made in Japan just a few weeks ago. So finally, this is a short movie. I can show you. Now this is in the shipping on the way to the San Francisco. This is not computer. This is real. Another one. This is at the Herschel Museum, Washington. Herschel Museum Sculpture Garden has been assigned to me, and this is a groundbreaking ceremony. It took place only months ago in Washington, D.C. And I'm here, and then the center person is Lady Biden. Yes. So this is a national project with Jeff Kuhn on the corner and Laurie Anderson, all my friends gathered, and then it's just started right now. I'm speaking. And then this is the famous Barnshaft building, but this entire sculpture garden is going to be redesigned by Sugimoto. And it took 6 years to get approval. I have many enemies against Sugimoto to keep the Barnshaft legacy or give this job to Sugimoto. So there was a very big argument. And New York Times has sided to me, so this was a very good point. But finally, I came to this point. And so this is the originally existed the passageway from main building to the garden. I will redesign this. And then this the water features and many Japanese style stone piling system. I asked myself, what's the modern sculpture like a Hepworth, Barbara Hepworth, Henry Moore? They are very strong on this collection. So to make the modern sculpture look better, I wanted to place the pre-modern structure, like a Japanese 16th century stone piling system. And this is another one. So you have any questions?
Yeah, I have many questions. Actually, one question I wanted to ask you is, as an artist, working on such incredible project, you of course needed to start your own architecture firm. And I wanted to ask you about that move, because that started in 2008, and yes. It has a very specific name. Can you tell us a little bit about the epiphany of you in 2008 starting, as you said, to become a young architect?
Right. The name of the architecture firm is New Material Research Laboratory. So I wanted to make the size of the company, whether this is a huge size company or the small company. So New Material Research. So this means that I want to use the material from the past the Japanese history of pre-modern method. So that's the most newly appreciated. So we are in the highest end of the technology, but we have to pay attention back to the old style of Japanese, that the people, craftsmen, spend their time and energy, and not the machine-made, aged, prefabricated structure we mostly use now. But I want to have a handmade, hand-filled way. That costs more, but it's still we need it. So that's the name of the origin.
And you basically self-described yourself as an unlicensed architect, but you make the things possible. You produce reality. And one of the things which is in a way key is that you revisit these ancient materials also. And can you tell us a little bit more about how you bring that here into play? And of course also how it connects all to this tea house, because the tea house...
This is a tea house, and also the stepping stone is from 16th century, being used from old Japanese temple garden. So this was a Venice Biennale architecture about 8 years ago. And then this was the first time I was asked to be acted as a kind of artist, but architecture. So I'm still working in between architecture and art. And this is a glass tea house with 2 tatami sides. And this was built in Venice, San Giorgio Maggiore Island. Thank you. And then a few years later, it moved to Versailles. I was invited to do a show at the Versailles. So I placed this in one of the ponds of the Versailles. And then it went to Kyoto, the opening of the new museum in Kyoto. It's Kyoto Ceramic Art Museum, Kyocera Museum. And then finally, now in Naoshima in Shikoku Island, this is a final spot to be installed. So yet, this is a contemporary kind of idea, but the tea ceremony, tea house is a very traditional concept. So how to make it modernized in a way to design.
And can you tell us a little bit about the connection to Mondrian? Because when I visited César Domela in the 90s, he was a friend of Mondrian. He often talked about the visits in Mondrian's studio, and he said whenever he came, he wasn't allowed to put even a piece of paper, not in a rectangular way. It was, no diagonals were allowed in the house. And it would be great to hear a little bit about the connection to Mondrian, but the connection also to the very ancient tea house from the 16th century.
Right. So you can see this. This is similar to the Mondrian composition. And when I think about the Senno Rikyu, 16th century tea master, his design is basically the same kind of mentality of Mondrian I found. So it's a minimal design and an abstract design. So the design of the tea house composition is very, very Mondrian spirits. So Japanese aesthetics, already 16th century, the Mondrian-like spirit were discovered. So this is a representation of the Senno Rikyu's concept and design concept to be fitted to the Mondrian. So I named this house even Mondrian Tea House. So there's a very interesting Japanese 16th century Momoyama period aesthetics to so-called modern art movement in 20th century Europe.
You also said that you came to architecture kind of by mere coincidence because you exhibited in so many museums all over the world, and very often these museums you found they were terrible. So kind of that brought you to architecture. Can you tell us about that? It's interesting.
Yes, I've been having many museum shows, more than maybe 20, 30. Daniel Libeskind designed the museum in Canada. I was invited to the opening of the building. And then that was a worst experience to me. The building was still under construction, and my opening is coming. And then, so even that state is terrible, but there's no wall straight. Everything is tilted. Only the floor. We designed inside of the museum my own wall. It's costed $300,000. But so I made a beautiful structure, but the most of the architects, the super architects, so-called, they don't think about the artist's usage. Frank Gehry's Bilbao was also terrible. The wall was waving. So the architect's mind, I estimate that they don't want to hang the art. The space itself, if it's empty, they think it's the best view of the space. So as a user of the museum, I just tell myself, well, if I were the architect, I'll be artist-friendly space. I'm only architect that I'm thinking about artist mind. So that's how I came to realize my space. And then after this, the Venice Biennale, and my friends start asking me, well, if you can design the space, we will do my house. And so I never think about getting a professional architect, but I have to establish my company to hire the licensed young architect. I'm unlicensed. So that's how it came.
And of course, there is also the ritual of, of the tea ritual involves utensils, it involves the elements we need to basically do the ritual. And, that's why I meant at the beginning that you're not only an artist and an architect and a writer, you're also a craftsman, because these tools are actually all made by you. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this is, for example, this is the tea scoops to be used for the tea ceremony. And so I paid kind of sculptural attention. This is only like 15 centimeter long. And I think about the Giacometti. If the tea master is Giacometti would make this kind of tea scoops. And then I became a potter as well, like a 16th century style tea bowls I started to make. And this is Shinoware, and this is Sasan. This is Persian origins. This is totally different. I'm a collector of many different things. And I've been collecting the Stone Age tools from all over the world. And then recently, the left 9 pieces from 15,000 years ago from Japan. At the right side 9 pieces, same age, 15,000 years old, from Africa. And then why they are same shape and same design 15,000 years ago? There must be no communication. So that's something I'm asking you. I have no answers, but it's a curious phenomenon. Happened like 20,000 years or 15,000 years or something global wide. All the people spread it all over the world, gained the kind of idea, well, we can make a tool this is the kind of beginning of our civilization. So something happened, maybe God there and then announced that your guys get, well, how do you call it? I let you be from ape to the human state. There's something kind of missing link, it can be called, but yeah, our consciousness, we gained the consciousness of that time. So I'm very curious about the steps from animal state to human state.
And also the fact that things can appear, no, in different parts of the world without there being a direct communication is, of course, what Rupert Sheldrake, talks about. Rupert Sheldrake, who talks a lot about telepathy, but he also wrote on the morphogenetic field, no? That there could be something like a morphogenetic field. But one thing which is interesting also, which comes to my mind in relation to that, is you, of course, as a collector and as a curator, because the last time we saw each other before the lockdowns and before COVID was actually in Paris. It was at the Palais de Tokio, and it was a very big exhibition you curated called Aujourd'hui, Le Monde est Mort, Lost Human Genetic Archive. And it was very much an exhibition which looked at the extinction crisis. You said the world is on the verge of extinction, and you created 33 scenarios basically depicting the end of the civilization. And thinking about this idea of long duration, we mentioned initially, I think it would be great that you tell us a little bit about that endeavor, these 33 scenes in this exhibition on the Human Genetic Archive.
So, well, we created the 33 stories of how our civilization ended, and even the human being distincted. So that time I was a half joke, half serious, but now it's getting more and more serious. And as this started from the civilization from this state, the Stone Age, now we are approaching the different kinds of state. And as capitalism is the last system that we choose, then we have to keep growing every year 5–6%, otherwise the system itself cannot be sustained. So limited resources, and we are eating up the resources. So it's very, very clear, I think. So my own foundation, I started to prepare the beautiful ruins after 5,000 years later. Maybe human may not exist. So like we are looking at the pyramid 5,000 years before, and then Greek ruins. So I wanted to make ruins of the current civilizations after all the humans gone. That's my final state of my art, called the Odawara Art Foundation.
And that brings us right away to Odawara, right?
Right. Let's see this short video. Oh, I have to click. Oh. ある日非常に晴れた日だったんですけども、熱海から小田原の方に向かっていくメガネトンネルっていうのが昔はあって、でそこにですね、崖の縁にトンネルがあって、そこに窓が開いてるんですよね。でそれでまずパッパッパッとこう映画のコマ落としみたいに海が見える。それで急にここに出るんですよね。そうするとこう180度広がってる海がこう見晴らすことができる。でその印象がものすごく強くて、でそこから僕の記憶が始まるということになるんですよね。 そのうち車じゃなくても今この森の中をこう歩ける遊歩道を作ってて、あそこからここまで歩いてこられるように今作ってるんですよ。まだ自分の土地で行ったことがないところがいっぱいある行ってみたら、すごいところあったら、竹林も初めて入ってみて、すごいなっていうんで今手をつけ始めてるんですね。まずは遺跡を作りたいと思ったんですよね。滅びた後の美しさっていうのを想定しながら作るって、これは普通の建築とちょっと違うと思うんですよね。人類がその意識が芽生えて文明っていうのを作り始めた頃に、人間というのはどうやって建築を作り始めたかということに思いを馳せて、それをもう一回追体験してみたいなということは基本の木にあるわけですね。一番最初のコンセプトというのはこの地下の70メーターの水道が、冬至の日に向かってその太陽が昇るところに向かって伸びている。これが最初の構想で、それに対して付随して、じゃあ夏至の日、それから春分秋分の日はどうなのか、そういうその宇宙の運行上の軸線を人間がその自意識が芽生えて、自分は何なんだろうと思った時に、やはりその一番最初にしたことっていうのは自分の場所を知るということですね。それでやったことというのが太陽の運行の規則性っていうのを認識するということが一番最初の人間の意識の始まりの行為だと思うんですね。そういうものをもう一回再現してみようと。自然の方が全然ね、造形感覚が豊かだからなんかこう人生の総まとめみたいなもんですかね。人生の宿題を終わったなっていう感じがしますけどね。これは誰が作ったっていうその記名性も忘れ去られてもいいような、誰が作るともなくあるっていう、そういう佇まいの方が想像上では美しいな、ロマンティシズムっていうんですかね、ある意味では。This is only
I think we should give a big round of applause. This is amazing.
So this was photographed, videotaped 7 years ago when it's opened, but now it's keep expanding since then. So this project keep going on till I disappeared from this world. But
I have many questions actually about the project, but before that, I thought it would be interesting that you tell us about this earliest memory, because it's mentioned at the beginning of the film, but it would be great to hear the story, because you mentioned that actually your earliest memory has to do with a train journey to Tokaido. You were very, very young, and as a child, has to do with the tunnel. It's deeply related to this site. Can you tell us this very first memory?
Probably was 5, 6 years old, or even younger. My family used to go to the like a weekend onsen places. So every time just a train passed by the seaside. And then one day I just realized, well, the sea is there and the seascape. This is my first memory to trace back my life. So so that time I woke up that I'm here. I'm a human. I'm seeing the sea, and where am I and who am I? Kind of, yeah. First recognize my presence. So, by some reason, at the age of after 60 years old, I was very, very mysteriously given this land. I was able to purchase this. And then for a long time, I've been working with the seascapes, which is the same idea that I want to represent my early childhood memory. But I thought that this kind of sense can be shared with ancient people. And I wanted to think about the first human appeared on the planet Earth, and then watching the seascapes, and then start wondering, who am I and where am I? So probably the first things that this human did is to find out which direction is the direction. The sun is coming up and setting up on the backside, so he named it, this is the east and this is the west. And then thinking about the 1 year, 365 days later, the sun comes back to the same point. So winter solstice is a very, very important day and moment for the human to realize the cycle of the universe. So 70-meter underpass to see only 1 day, to see the winter solstice sun coming up. There's a similar ancient ruins all over the world. So this is the first step to build this underpass.
And you mentioned the seascapes because, of course, the epiphany of your amazing photographs of seascapes is also deeply related to this early epiphany as a child. And can you tell us about how the seascapes were born? Because you said it's water and air, it's very commonplace substances, yet our entire existence is kind of based on them. And you also mentioned that when you took the first seascape photographs, it was a 24-hour job.
Yeah. Nighttime, daytime, and sometimes moonrise comes at the same time with nighttime. So I just put myself in my mind like ancient, the sense of the memories. So after the winter solstice tunnel, I made a summer solstice 100-meter galleries. This was influenced by the Marcel Duchamp's 1-meter model. Yeah, and let's make it 100-meter so that the people were from the vision from the universe were up in the sky. You can clearly see that 100-meter scale on the ground. And then spring equinox, autumn equinox, just keep expanding. Yes.
And also these seascapes kind of, as you said in an interview recently, grew up actually out of some experiences also in the mountain where you photographed waterfalls and you had spiritual experiences in the mountain. And as we talk here about, the present of your work and all these amazing things you're working on, I wanted to also ask you about your new photography, because you recently returned to photography.
Yeah.
And actually, like at the beginning, the mountain plays again a role. There is an amazing photograph of Mount Fuji, and you found a way of very special printing technique, actually, which brought you back to photography. Can you tell us about this most recent photographic work?
Most recent will be shown probably the show this year in Tokyo's museum, but for a long time, I'm registered to the digital photography. Digital photography is not a photography, and I'm only pay attention to the black and white, hand-printed print. Because the digital photography doesn't show the reality at all. You can change anything you want. It's more like a painting to me, digital photography. But the photography used to be believed that the photography can be the reflection of the reality. That's what I like, the aspect of photography. But now in New York, my French friend introduced me. There's a new paper. It's a Japanese rice paper, able to print a digital image onto the Japanese rice paper. So I tested, and then I can make a huge size prints on a Japanese rice paper, so that I can make a 7-meter long wide Japanese traditional screen, like 18th, 19th century style. And then I tested, and then it just became quite, and I can control the tonalities and densities. So I started to photograph I did a Mount Fuji photograph. So I'm very kind of used to image from the past. It's like a cliche kind of images past. So this is new. I started.
What is also new, and that's the last question of this little detour, and then we're going to come back to Odawara. What is also new is calligraphy, and about 10 years ago, I was in the house of Umberto Eco in Milano, and he basically told me that we need to kind of avoid that handwriting and calligraphy disappears in the digital age, and he really gave me this as a last kind of sentence. He said we need to save calligraphy, and it's fascinating. You told me this morning when we were actually preparing the talk that there have been recent calligraphies. So that's a new chapter, you as a calligrapher. Can you tell us about that?
This started during the COVID time. I had nothing to do in Japan, so I started my calligraphy seriously. And I have a collection of some Southern Song Dynasty, famous Chinese monk exiled to Japan in the 15th century. And those are very high-end calligraphy. So I started to study Chinese monks' calligraphy who exiled to Japan in the 15th century. And then I kind of gained a kind of sense how to do it. And then when I was in New York before COVID, I have the stock of the papers, numbered paper, so which is so many and out of dated, so that I cannot use for my prints, but I can use it for other purposes. So I decided to do use this old out of dated paper to bring it into my dark room, and in the darkness, I place it on a table, and I have a brush, dip into the developer, and then without seeing it, I have my imaginative letter types can be written on paper, photographic paper. And after that, I flash the light, and then all of a sudden, only the touched part developed. So the developed part shows up as a letter. And I like that. So I'm a blind calligrapher, so-called. And this is also a new phase of my art.
Now, calligraphy brings us to writing, and writing brings us back to Odawara, because actually, a few years ago, I spoke to the late Ethel Adnan, who was then in her mid-90s, and Ethel said, a poem can actually produce a building. So she always, dreamt that her poem of a house could be built. And in a very interesting way, in your case, something very similar happened in the opposite direction, because the many years of your work on Odawara, actually during the lockdowns, produced a book. you wrote the book. That's why I wanted to come from calligraphy to writing and back to Alabara. Can you tell us about what you wrote during the lockdown about this project?
My self-biography I wrote once, and then also another book is how this Odara Foundation comes to realize that the very, very mysterious things happened, a series of mysterious things. Discovering this land was the first incident. So, yeah, two books I wrote, and then I even wrote a cooking book as well.
How does that work? Can you tell us about your cooking book? It's a recipe book.
Yeah. Well, this is the most recent development in the Odawara Art Foundation. I finally built a Shinto shrine within my property. And then this is, it's called Odawara Kasuga Shrine. And I asked the 8th century established famous Kasuga Shrine in Nara to be given the spirits given from this 8th century shrine to be replanted, or the spirit will be given a part of it. So this is the night of the ceremony to be given the spirits from the ancient capital of Nara. And then this is a gate, and then this is the shrine, and facing the sea. So now, finally, I'm running this religious organization now. It's not just an art, but I have to pray for every day, and then once every month, it's the big ceremony, and then once every year, the big festival has to be made. So for this first year festival, we're coming March 26. So I'm asking many contemporary artists and performers to come together and then do a big festivities is being planned. So it's a religious activities at the same time, it's a contemporary performers gathers. So this is a kind of new style of art and religions. I think originally in ancient time, art and religion was one united forms. But here I'm recreating kind of memories of early humans, religious feeling and an artistic feeling together.
So you have Min Tanaka who made a performance.
Min Tanaka made many performances for me, but he will come and just crawl, I think. It's not dance, but...
And Laurie Anderson is going to do something.
Next Laurie Anderson being invited to do a performance. And then Christian Markley I invited last year before the shrine, but yeah, he made quite a performance.
Now recently you sat down in Tokyo with Gabriele Orozco, who moved to Tokyo, and both of you discussed the notion of the garden. And in that conversation, you talked about the Katsura Garden, and in relation to this, to this project. And you said that, of course, the Katsura Garden is such a long duration project, and I think it grew over three generations, and you say that Katsura is your competitor. Can you tell us about it?
Because I reached about the same size of Katsura this year.
Yeah.
So it's a 15,000 tsubo. So with the size-wise, we are in even. But the sensitivities of the design in the garden, I learned a lot. So I want to modify the 16th century spirits to be reconsidered as a 21st century's garden design. I think Isamu Noguchi, I've known him for a long time, but he challenged to this kind of issue, to modify the Japanese, the Middle Age sensitivity to be able to recreate as a contemporary sense of design and garden. So I think Katsura and Isamu Noguchi, and then now my turn to do something.
You also not only connected to Katsura Garden, but you also wrote elsewhere that you somehow copied a Roman theater. There is
Roman.
Yeah.
Roman, yes, Roman theater. I've been traveling around Italy for the seascapes shooting, and I'm visiting many unknown ruins. And I found one Roman theater, and I measured it exactly, and then I relocated to my foundation. I may have some. Oh, by the way, this is the winter solstice, the morning scene. It's beautiful. I have too many pictures here today.
No, it's great to browse through them. It's very beautiful.
This is a 16th century gate I was given from the Nezu Museum in Tokyo. Because of they rebuilt the museum, they asked Kuma Kengo to redesign it, and then he said, "Well, I don't need this. Oh, let me have it." So, well, thanks for Kuma Kengo's different kind of sensitivity. That's a beautiful 16th century gate. Well, this is the gate and many parts, reception. I have a Yakusu 1500 years old tree being used as a table. So this is, so you can say, you can see some reflection of Katsura Villa in many places. This is a 15th century Shigaraki well, summer solstice light worship. There's a 100-meter summer solstice scene. This is half like hanging out, the cantilevered. And then actually, the architecture-wise, this is very ambitious structure. Only one side is a stone, oyaishi covered stone wall, and then the roof is hanging from the cantilevered one side. So the sheet of glass is standing by itself. It's not touching to the roof. So what's happened in a big earthquake, the roof shakes, but it's not touching the glass, so it's just scraping the glass surface. And this is kind of ambitious and very dangerous, but I decided to do it just for myself. So this is hanging out. Many gardens, summer solstice. Yeah, this is finally, we get...
Yeah, the stones, and it's actually interesting because the German-Korean philosopher Byung-Chul Han lives in Berlin, has written this extraordinary book, Lob der Erde. It's kind of like praise to the earth. It's a journey into the garden, and there are many connections actually I find between this book and your work. It's a journey into a garden, a dream garden, a secret garden. He talks about the silence, no, the importance of silence, and that seems to be important here, no?
For example, this is from the 8th century Nara temple, Gangoji, and this used to be a building. This is the base stone of the huge temple building, and as the building gone and then left over for more than 1,000 years, and then as it's patina as a human-made shape. And I really get some kind of very like a sense of time I feel. This is last year, the huge Todaiji temple based on its weight 3-4 tons. And then the original, this is the 8th century. You can go to Nara, you see the huge Buddha figures, but that was rebuilt in the 17th century. But this is the original 8th century. On top of this, there's a 7-layered pagoda used to be. And as a sculpture, it's a very, very interesting shape. And this is another 12th century, and this is a Horyuji temple, even before, 7th century, original Horyuji temple. Shotoku Taishi built it. And then I didn't search for that, but those stone sculptures just shows up and then just comes to me. Sometimes it's donated from the collector, sometimes theater, but it's very rare to find it. But it's mysterious. This is another 7th century Kawara-dera temple. And this is 16th century Kyoto's famous Gojo Bridge base from 15th century. And then now, finally, this is a Roman theater at the foreground with glass stage. This is very dangerous to perform because it's just the edge. If you fell, you die. But many performers prefer without protection.
Now, I was very curious because you show us this amazing evolutive artwork, and so many things have already happened. Are there sort of unrealized aspects to it? Things you haven't been able to realize yet? Because I always think it's interesting to think about unrealized projects of artists, because we actually we know quite a lot of architects' unrealized projects when they do competitions, no? Because it gets published and all of that. But we know almost nothing about artists' unrealized projects. And the range of the unrealized can be very wide. It can be projects which are too big to be realized, or too small to be realized, or too expensive to be realized, or too time-intense to be realized. Sometimes there isn't enough time. Or utopic projects, dreams. It can also be projects which have been censored. That can be a reason for it being unrealized. Or also self-censorship. No? Doris Lessing always said, she said basically there are the projects, I think we all have such projects we want to do, but we haven't dared to do yet. So within this whole range, you know, of the unbuilt, I wanted to ask you to tell us a little bit about your unrealized projects in relation to this and also in general.
Well, there's the one project I've been thinking for many years and then proposed to many occasions. One is I was asked to propose for the Central Park, New York, summertime, do some kind of art project. So I proposed 100-meter, one-lane swimming pool up in the sky with the pillars. And then you can even naked to be swimming because it's a private one-lane pool. And then the pool is facing to something like this, the sunrise of summer solstice, sunrise. So in the morning, you can swim naked towards the sunrise. That must be feeling great, I thought. So it doesn't have to be Central Park. It can be anywhere in the world to be able to one lane. And then hopefully there's no chemical. There's a natural stream that the water can comes in and then comes out. So that's one of my dreams and never happened. So there's a connection of this kind of
yeah, let's hope it will happen, because I think we talk about these unrealized projects in order to make them happen. But there is also another unrealized project which is actually about to be realized. And I'm extremely excited about that and wanted to ask you to tell us a little bit more, because it has actually to do with a project with Tokyo University. And it has to do with a satellite. It again brings us back to photography. There is an eternal return to photography in a way. We spoke about before about your Mount Fuji photograph. This is actually satellite photography. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this is, January 2nd this year. Finally, from Florida, the satellite rocket was launched, and then successfully it's floating now, starts spinning. And this is a project by Sony, and then JAXA is a Japanese spaceship program, and then Tokyo University. And mainly the Sony paid the cost, but Sony made a special camera. And then this is the kind of first time the private use of this satellite camera. And I was picked up as a first artist to be able to use this camera. So I have the point, I point from the satellite, from the universe, to look at wherever I want. So this is, I told them first, I want to go to the moon and then photograph the sea of the moon. It's a dry moon, dry sea. But they said, well, it's too expensive to go there. So will you try first the orbit of the Earth? So I said, okay, I accept it. So now, probably end of this month, first time I can control the camera. And then so look at the surface of the Earth, of course. But the other side of the universe, most of the picture is only, most of the spaceship have a window towards the Earth. But mine is especially asked to make a window on the other side of Earth, dark side of the universe, which is more interesting to me. So I have no idea. I have to test it first and see what I can get the image-wise as a photographer. This is digital photography, of course.
So there is no end, as you can see, to experimentation in your extraordinary work. I have a very last question. When actually Isabella Mora and I spoke about the talk, we thought we should ask you about this idea of an advice to a new generation, no? And of course, Rilke wrote this little book, which is an advice to a young poet. I see also many young artists here. So I was wondering what in 2023 would be your advice to a young artist or your advice to a young architect? Advice.
This is answer.
Okay, your advice in 2023, following the talk today and Vasari's idea of the lives of the artist and the lives of the architect, and your ceaseless permanent bridging of art and architecture in your work, what would be your advice to a young artist or to a young architect?
Well, it's hard to answer this question because I believe that there's not much time left for the human being. So towards the end of this world, something amazing can be made. It's because of this special occasion. So my case, I just keep making this and making a beautiful ruins. And then my idea for the foundation is I want to die with cash balance zero. Every year I'm trying to spend all my cash, the profit from the sales from my art will be spent to make other type of the art. So from art to art. This is a kind of a Stone Age deal, like there's no cash involvement. I want to just transfer from my art to another art. So for the next generation, I think it's more like not the capitalist-based, cash-based artworks like this art fair. I've been exchanging many artists, my friend, to be exchanging art, and that's taught me many interesting things. So not like an art fair-like situation, but there's many other ways to enjoy art forms. So it doesn't have to be sold in a high-end market, but like mine is, this is, I don't know, there's no purpose. That's not for sale. So there's art can be made not for the market. That kind of thinking, especially in this kind of situation, it's kind of a negative message. But
there could not be a better conclusion. It brings us also back to you quoting Marcel Duchamp quite a lot, because Duchamp once said, I have been happy because I did not have to become rich. No?
Yeah, become rich.
But you also use another Duchamp quote in your calligraphy. So, yes. Yeah, but there could not be a better conclusion, really. So thank you all so much for being here. We are very grateful to Hiroshi. A big round of applause.
Thank you.
I wanted to also thank again BioLaw and UBS and the Singapore Art Fair. And another big round of applause for Hiroshi Sugimoto.